Everybody that uses HubSpot is probably going to use a HubSpot form at one point or another. So today we're going to show you how to create a HubSpot form and all the features that are available to you.
Welcome to HubSpot Hacks, where we help you get more out of HubSpot.
One of the great things about HubSpot forms is that they're available on any tier within HubSpot. And they're really easy to create, but there are a lot of features available, and so some of them might be easy to miss. So we're going to go ahead and explore the whole tool and everything that you can do. So we're on the forms screen here. To get here, you're going to go to Marketing, Lead Capture, and Forms, and that'll take you to this screen. Once you're here, you're going to want to go ahead and hit Create Form. And the first thing is it will ask you to choose your form type. So embedded form is going to be the form type used most often. You can also have a form just live on its own standalone page hosted by HubSpot, or there's a variety of kind of pop in and slide in forms. We're going to do a simple embedded form today. So we're just going to have that selected and hit next. Next thing is it'll offer you some templates. So a lot of kind of common uses for forms, you'll notice that there's a template already created for you. We're going to start with a blank template. And what we're going to do is create an example request for quote form. So the first thing that we always recommend that you do with pretty much any HubSpot asset is go ahead and hit this pencil icon at the top. That'll allow you to edit the name. So we're just going to call ours test RFQ form. But in your portal, we definitely recommend that you have a naming convention for all of your HubSpot assets to keep everything clean. So over here, we're going to see the form, the fields that have been added to the form, and all of the fields that are available to us. So this will be the screen that you'll commonly see. You'll see the frequently used properties, kind of a handy list of properties that most people use commonly in their forms. Some other form elements, so your CAPTCHA and GDPR settings. CAPTCHA will help you prevent spam, so we definitely recommend that you turn that on by just popping this open and toggling that switch. You'll see that pop up there for you. And then any other contact properties that are available to you, you can also have it populate company properties, ticket properties, and any custom object properties that you might have if you're on the enterprise version. For ticket properties, you can also have a form automatically create a ticket for you just by toggling this switch here. But today we're just going to keep it simple and use contact properties. So you'll notice that we've got email in here already. Somebody requests a quote, we're definitely going to want to know their first name. So we've got this first name and this frequently used properties. We're just going to simply click and drag it over here. We can drag it into any of these blue boxes. So I'm going to put it right up here at the top. We also want to know last name. And we can have that be on the same row as first name. So we're going to drag it right over next to first name. And it's going to just kind of divide that row in half and ask both those questions. I also want to know their company name and maybe their phone number. We'll ask for their mobile phone number. Put that in here. So these are the questions that we want to ask on the RFQ form that we're creating here. And now we want to adjust some settings on some of these properties. So to adjust the settings on any questions that you're asking, you can hover over the field here and just click on this pencil icon, and it's going to give you some settings. So you'll notice there's two tabs. We've got the basic tab and the logic tab. So under basic, you can have the field set to be required. So we definitely want to make sure that they answer their first name. So we'll set that to be required. And you'll notice there is an asterisk that pops up and that labels that as required. You can also make it hidden. We'll leave these open. I'll show you how to use hidden fields here in just a second. The label, so this is the label that they're going to see when they see the form on your website. By default, the label is going to come in as whatever the property name is that you have set up in HubSpot. But you can change the label here and it's just going to change what they see. It won't actually change the name of the property. So I'm really picky about capitalization. So let's say I want this capitalized. Now we've got that there. Property is still first name with the name lowercase, but when they see it on their websites, on your websites, it'll be capitalized just like that. If you want to provide any help text, it'll show. So hopefully everybody understands what first name is, but if we need to give them a clue, we can. And so it'll just show up a little text right underneath that label there. Placeholder text is going to be text that is kind of already in the property. And then default text is going to be something very similar with one key difference. If you just have placeholder text in there, and somebody submits the form and it's required, it's going to flag an error and say, hey, you still need to enter your first name. But if you have a default value set, it's going to actually allow whatever you set there to submit with the form. So that's the difference between placeholder text and default value. A couple other kind of nifty things that you can do in forms. So let's look at email. There's a couple things you can do with email specifically that I like to show people. So let's say we really only want their company email, their work email address in here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this label to work email. And that'll hopefully encourage people to do that. Let's say you wanna be really strict about that. So you do also with this, with the email field, you also have this option to block specific domains or block all email providers. So if you want to prevent people from being able to submit, your Gmails, AOLs, things like that, you can check this box here. I don't typically recommend that. Typically, you want people to be able to submit the form as easily as possible. Usually any data is good data, as long as it's an actual email address, but you do have that option. Another thing that is kind of nice here that HubSpot did for you is, let's say I want to ask a question on this form, but I don't have the property created yet. So you see we've got this create new tab up here. So let's say I want to ask if somebody referred them to our website to fill out this form, but I don't have that property yet. So I'm just going to create a single checkbox property, and I'm just going to call it referral. The question mark here, mark next, and create. So not only did it create that property, I can use that, I can view that on contact records, I can use that in future forms. And so now if it was a referral, they can check this box, and then default value will leave it with no value. Now let's say if somebody does check this box, we want to ask who referred them. So we're going to get a little bit complicated here with this logic tab, but the first thing I need to do is create another property. So I'm going to call this one referral source. Let's be a single line text. Create that property. But I don't want it to show up all the time. So I'm actually going to remove it from our form here. Go back to this referral field. Go into logic. And have it set up as a dependent field. So we're going to say if the referral isn't empty. So if they've checked this box, then we're going to ask them for the referral source. I might have to refresh here since I just created that property. There it goes. We'll add it there. And now you'll see we've got this dependent field. So if they check that box, it's going to ask them the referral source. So that's kind of one of those handy tricks that you can do. So they'll only see that field if this referral is checked. Another thing that's kind of fancy you can do with HubSpot forms is called progressive fields. So progressive fields allow you to ask different questions based on the information you already know in your CRM. So let's say that if I already know their company name, I want to ask what their job title is. So maybe they've submitted a form in the past that they've told us their company name, or we had that preloaded into the CRM, we imported them or something like that. Job title isn't important enough to me to add it to the field to make this, add it to the form to make the form super long, but I would like to know it if I already know their company name. So we've got this section at the bottom called queued progressive fields. I'm gonna go ahead and open that. That's gonna give you this new area to drop form fields in. I'm gonna find job title and drag and drop that over here. And now I'm gonna go back up to company name. Go to logic and the progressive field options. So if this field has been submitted before, I want to replace it with a queued progressive field. And so what's going to happen is if we know company name, it's going to ask job title. And if it asks job title, I do want to make it required. So those progressive fields and those dependent fields are some of those features that are a little bit hard to find in the form tool, but can be pretty powerful ways to get more out of your forms and to learn more about your customers. Last thing I want to show you, the button, you can change the text for that as well. Just click on it. So if we want it to be something other than submit, let's say, I don't know, we want it to be submit form, or let's say for our purposes, we want it to be request quote. So you can change that text there. So once you've got all of your fields the way you want them and your submit button text the way you want it, you can kind of progress through the rest of our options here. So we'll go to this options tab. So the first thing you'll see here is what happens once somebody submits the form. So you can either display a message, this is just gonna pop up a new message in place of the form on the same page, or you can redirect them to another page such as a thank you page or a confirmation page. We're just gonna have it display a thank you message. You can have it, if that contact is assigned to a HubSpot user, you can make sure that contact owner, that HubSpot user, gets notified once they fill out the form just by checking that box. Or you can have it set to specific people to notify them. So if you want to notify people in your team who might not be the contact owner, you can set teams or specific HubSpot users that are in your portal in there. You can set the language. If you want to tie your form to a campaign, if you're using the campaigns tool in HubSpot, you can do that. And these other submission settings, usually the default settings are going to be good for you, but they are important to kind of know what it is. So always create a contact for a new email address. So when this is turned on, this is going to be turned on for things if you're going to have the form be used by multiple people on the same device. So think of like if you're going to a trade show and have an iPad set up, you want every time that form submitted, rather than updating the last contact that submitted the form on that device, you want to create a new contact every time it's submitted. So for those types of use cases, you would just toggle that on. Just important to note that you can't use progressive fields. So that option where we replace the company name with a job title, you can't do things like that if that's turned on. You can also add a link to reset the form if you want to. That's also useful for things like those trade show situations. And then pre-populate contact fields with known values. By default, that'll be turned on. If you turn this one on, toggle off. But in most cases, if you already know the information about the person in your system and they have a cookie on their computer that their device knows that you know that information, you might as well already answer those questions for them so they can submit the form even quicker. So we recommend leaving that on. Next, you have your style and preview options. This is kind of the first place where you can really preview the form. You can't actually type in things here, but you can scroll down to the bottom here and go to this test tab and start to play with some specific things. So if you want to preview, what a contact would see based on a specific contact, you can find a contact in your system. Or if you want to say, what happens if somebody marks referral, it's going to show you that dependent field is in there. Or let's say we already know company name, it's going to show you that company name has disappeared and now we're asking for this job title. So a way you can kind of test the form there. The other thing you've got available on here is your style options. So these options are only going to appear if you're embedding the form on a page that's not hosted on HubSpot. If you're embedding it on a HubSpot landing page or a HubSpot CMS web page, you can go ahead and ignore these settings because you'll set the form style settings on those pages. But if you're going to set it on a WordPress website or another website, a website hosted somewhere other than HubSpot, you can adjust some of your style settings here, some of your basic style settings, and then some of your more advanced style settings are under this style tab. The other thing that you can do if you're going to embed this form on another website, but you want to control the style of the form on that website's CSS, you can just set this as a raw HTML form, and then you'll have the capability to style the form based on the CSS of the website that you're embedding it on. And then the last thing is automation. So if you're on HubSpot Professional or HubSpot Marketing Professional or Enterprise, there's all kinds of workflows that you can do. But if you're on the starter level or below, then you can still do some basic automation directly in the form tool. So the way to do that would be this simple workflow. So you can hit create this workflow. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but this will allow you to do things like send them an email. So you've got, this is a simple workflow builder. You can add actions with any of these plus marks. So this is going to say, whenever a contact submits this form, let's say I want to send an internal notification to somebody. I want to send an email to the person that submitted the form. I want to create a task for somebody on my team to follow up. So you've got all kinds of different little automations that you can do here. If you're on the free version, you can send up to 1 email. If you're on the starter version, you can send up to 10 emails. So let's say this is a newsletter sign up form and you want to send them a few welcome emails after they submit the form. This is how you would do that. And once we have everything set up, we're gonna hit this update button. This update button, it'll save automatically, but this update button is what's gonna allow you to actually publish this form on a web page. So we're gonna click update here. It's gonna show you any warnings that if there's anything that HubSpot thinks is wrong with the form, it'll show you some warnings up here. Otherwise, it'll just kind of allow you to review your settings. Once this all looks good, then you can click publish. And it is going to pop up with this embed code. So if you are gonna place this form on another website, you can just copy this embed code, paste it into that other website, and that's what'll populate the form. Otherwise, if you're gonna put it on a HubSpot page, don't even need to worry about it. You can just exit out of this page and this form will now be available on those page builders in that drop-down box where you select your form. So if we go back to all forms, we'll see this new form created. And once a form is created, you can see some kind of basic analytics on how that form is performing. So that's all there is to it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and definitely subscribe to our newsletter for more HubSpot hacks, tips, and how-tos. See you next time.